There comes a moment in life when words lose their meaning, when conversations that once carried hope now hold only echoes of the past, when no matter how much you try, there is nothing left to say. And the pain is that silence becomes heavier than words ever could. We often believe that pain is loud, it screams, it shouts, it demands to be heard. But real pain is silent. It sits in the unsent messages, in the closed doors, in the way someone looks at you one last time before walking away. Real pain is when you have exhausted every word, every plea, every fight, and all that remains is silence. But silence is not the end of the story. Silence is where strength is born. I know what it means to feel unheard, to feel like your voice no longer carries weight in a world that keeps moving without noticing your absence. But I also know that there is power in the moments when words fail. Because in that silence, you are given a choice: to surrender or to rise. Do not fear the silence. Let it teach you, let it shape you. Let it remind you that even without words, your presence matters. Because the truth is, even when there is nothing left to say, your story is still being written. And maybe, just maybe, the silence is not an end, but a beginning. The weight of unspoken words is a burden unlike any other. It is not the sharp sting of heated arguments or the storm of an emotional breakdown. It is the slow, suffocating silence that creeps in when all the words have been exhausted. It is the moment when a conversation no longer has a purpose, when explanations seem pointless, and when the heart, despite all its desires, chooses to remain quiet. It is a pain that does not erupt in an instant, but rather settles deeply, growing heavier with time. There are wounds inflicted by words, but there are also wounds carved by silence. Words, no matter how harsh, provide an outlet for emotions, a way to confront, to express, to fight, or even to plead. Silence, on the other hand, is an abyss where emotions linger without direction, without release. When nothing more can be said, the mind replays past conversations over and over, dissecting every word, every pause, and every sigh, searching for meaning in the void. It is in this silence that regret finds its voice, whispering all the things that should have been said but never were. The heaviest silence is often found in the moments following an emotional storm. It is in the aftermath of a painful conversation, when the echoes of words spoken in anger still hang in the air, but there is no energy left to fight, no will left to explain. It is in the unreturned phone calls, the unread messages, and the doors that remain closed. Sometimes it is not a sudden break, but a gradual fading, where conversations become shorter, responses become colder, and one day, there is simply nothing left to say. This silence is not just an absence of sound. It is an absence of understanding, of closure, of resolution. It is the weight of emotions that have nowhere to go, and often it is the heaviest in relationships. Friendships that have drifted apart, love that has withered away, families divided by unspoken pain. It is the quiet between two people who once shared everything but now struggle to share even a glance. It is the space between what was and what can never be again. The silence of unspoken words is not always the result of choice. Sometimes it is a necessity. There are moments when words have been given every opportunity, when explanations have been offered, and when efforts to bridge the gap have only led to deeper wounds. In such moments, silence becomes the only option left. It is not a sign of indifference, but of exhaustion. It is the realization that no matter how much is said, the outcome will remain unchanged. It is the painful acceptance that some things are beyond repair. Yet despite its weight, silence is often misunderstood. It is easy to assume that when someone stops speaking, they no longer care. But more often than not, silence is not the absence of care, but the presence of too much hurt. It is a defense mechanism, a shield against further pain. It is not that the heart has stopped feeling, but that it can no longer bear to express those feelings aloud. The mind is relentless in its pursuit of closure. When words are left unsaid, it crafts its own endings, often filling the silence with assumptions, doubts, and self-blame. It is in the absence of explanations that people begin to question themselves. Was it something they did? Something they failed to do? Could one more conversation have changed the course of things? These questions linger long after the silence has settled, making it even more unbearable. But perhaps the greatest pain of unspoken words is knowing that they will never be heard. That no matter how many times they are rehearsed in the mind, no matter how desperately they are wished for, they will never reach the person they were meant for. They will remain locked away, heavy in the chest, longing for release, but forever trapped in the silence. The weight of unspoken words does not merely exist in relationships. It exists in dreams left unpursued, in apologies never given, in truths buried beneath fear. It exists in the moments where someone wanted to speak up but stayed quiet, where they wanted to express their love but let the moment pass. It exists in the times when a simple "I miss you," "I need you," or "I'm sorry" could have changed everything, but pride or hesitation held the words back. Some people carry this weight for years, living with the knowledge that they let words slip through their fingers, that they allowed silence to take the place of what should have been said. And the pain of this realization is not something that fades easily. It lingers in memories, in the places where those conversations should have happened, in the moments where a different choice could have rewritten the story. But silence, for all its weight, also holds meaning. It is a reflection of emotions too deep for words. It is a reminder that sometimes, no matter how much we want to, we cannot force understanding where there is none. It is an unspoken language of love, grief, regret, and resilience. It is proof that some feelings are so profound that even words are inadequate. The weight of unspoken words is not just about what was not said, it is about what could have been. It is about the endless possibilities that exist in every conversation left unfinished, in every emotion left unexpressed. It is a burden that many carry, a reminder of the fragile nature of human connections and the power that words hold, whether spoken or left unsaid. Breaking through the silence is an act of courage that many struggle with, especially when the world has conditioned them to remain quiet. It is easy to believe that silence is the safer choice, that avoiding confrontation, swallowing emotions, and keeping pain hidden will somehow make it disappear. But silence is not an escape. It is a prison. It is a space where emotions fester, where wounds deepen instead of heal, and where the truth becomes lost beneath layers of fear and hesitation. Finding the courage to speak when everything around you suggests that you should remain silent is not just an act of defiance, it is the first step toward healing. The world often teaches us that certain things are better left unsaid, that pain should be carried in solitude, that struggles should be endured quietly, and that emotions are a sign of weakness. People are told to suppress their feelings, to put on a brave face, to hide their suffering behind a practiced smile. Society celebrates those who endure hardships without complaint, mistaking silence for strength. But real strength is not in enduring pain quietly. It is in acknowledging it, in expressing it, and in finding the voice to confront it. Breaking through the silence means confronting the fear of judgment. It means speaking up, even when there is a risk of being misunderstood or dismissed. It is not easy to voice emotions when there is no guarantee that they will be met with understanding. It takes courage to admit pain when the world expects resilience, to ask for help when independence is praised, and to share struggles when vulnerability is often mistaken for weakness. But true healing cannot begin until the silence is broken. Silence is often a learned response, shaped by past experiences. Many people have been silenced by circumstances, by the people around them, or by the fear of consequence. They have been told that their words do not matter, that their pain is insignificant, or that speaking up will only bring trouble. Over time, this silence becomes a habit. It becomes easier to suppress emotions than to risk rejection, easier to avoid difficult conversations than to face uncomfortable truths. But healing begins the moment that silence is challenged. The moment a person chooses to break free from silence, they reclaim their power. They acknowledge that their emotions are valid, that their pain deserves to be heard, and that their voice holds value. It is in speaking up that people begin to heal, not because words immediately fix everything, but because they release the weight that silence has carried for so long. Speaking is not about demanding solutions from others. It is about freeing oneself from the burden of unspoken emotions. There is a certain relief in allowing words to escape from the space where they have been trapped. Whether spoken in a whisper, written in a letter, or shared with a trusted friend, the act of expression is a step towards self-acceptance. It is a declaration that one's experiences, struggles, and emotions are real. It is a rejection of the belief that pain must be hidden and endured alone. Breaking through the silence is not just about personal healing. It is also about creating change. When one person speaks, they give others permission to do the same. They challenge the notion that suffering must be endured alone, that struggles should be kept private, and that healing is a solitary journey. In a world where many are suffering in silence, one voice has the power to inspire others to find their own. But finding the courage to speak does not mean that it will always be easy. There will be moments of doubt, times when silence feels like the safer option, when the fear of being unheard or dismissed threatens to pull a person back into isolation. The world does not always respond kindly to those who break their silence. Some will resist the truth, some will judge, and some will try to push the speaker back into the shadows. But the act of speaking is not about pleasing others, it is about personal liberation. Healing is a process, and speaking is only the beginning. But it is a crucial beginning. It is the moment where pain is no longer hidden, where the past no longer holds complete control, and where a person chooses to face their reality rather than bury it. Even if the words are shaky, even if they come with tears, even if they are met with resistance, they matter. They hold power. They break the cycle of silence that has kept so many from healing. There is no single way to break the silence. For some, it may be speaking to a close friend. For others, it may be writing down their thoughts, expressing themselves through art, or even seeking professional help. The method does not matter as much as the act itself. What matters is that the silence is no longer allowed to control one's emotions, thoughts, or future. The journey of breaking through the silence is one of self-discovery. It is about learning that vulnerability is not a weakness, that emotions do not make a person fragile, and that every voice has value. It is about realizing that silence is not a shield, but a barrier that prevents healing. And once that barrier is broken, once the first words are spoken, there is no turning back. Healing begins, step by step, word by word, moment by moment. The echoes of the past are not always found in the words that were spoken, but in the ones that were left unsaid. They exist in the spaces between conversations, in the emotions that were never fully expressed, in the moments that passed without resolution. The weight of these unspoken words lingers long after time has moved forward, shaping thoughts, behaviors, and emotions in ways that are often invisible yet deeply felt. Pain does not always arrive with a loud crash. Sometimes it settles quietly, growing heavier as it remains unaddressed. It is not always in what was said that wounds are formed, but in what was withheld, what was lost in hesitation, in fear, in uncertainty. Unspoken words hold an undeniable power. They create questions that have no answers, leaving the mind to craft its own versions of the truth. They allow doubt to grow, turning fleeting regrets into lifelong burdens. A missed opportunity to express love. A moment where an apology was needed but never given. A chance to speak up that was instead met with silence. These are the echoes that follow a person through life. The things left unsaid do not disappear. They linger in the back of the mind, resurfacing at unexpected moments, reminding a person of what could have been different if only they had found the words when it mattered most. The past is not just a collection of memories. It is a series of turning points, some of which were shaped by actions and others by inaction. People often believe that pain is caused by conflict, by harsh words spoken in anger, by the sharp sting of betrayal. But sometimes pain is more subtle. It exists in the absence of closure, in the goodbye that never happened, in the silent moments when a person needed comfort but received none. It is in the friendships that faded without explanation, in the love that was never fully expressed, in the dreams that were abandoned without acknowledgement. The mind replays these moments, searching for different outcomes, wondering what might have changed if words had been spoken instead of swallowed. Silence is not always a choice. Sometimes it is a survival instinct. There are times when people keep their emotions buried because they fear rejection, because they do not trust that their feelings will be understood, because they believe that speaking will only bring more pain. But buried emotions do not fade with time. Instead, they grow roots, spreading beneath the surface, influencing decisions, shaping relationships, and often leading to patterns of self-doubt and regret. The echoes of the past make themselves known in moments of hesitation, in the inability to trust, in the reluctance to open up, in the fear of being vulnerable again. Some people carry the weight of these echoes for years, allowing them to define their present and dictate their future. A person who once remained silent in the face of injustice may struggle to find their voice later in life. Someone who never received the apology they needed may carry resentment into new relationships. A heart that was broken by unspoken words may build walls to keep love at a distance, fearing the pain of another unfinished story. The past, when left unresolved, does not remain in the past. It follows, whispering doubts, reminding of mistakes, casting shadows over new beginnings. Yet, the echoes of the past are not just reminders of pain. They are also reminders of what is still possible. They teach lessons about the importance of expression, about the need for honesty, about the power of speaking before it is too late. They reveal the consequences of silence, showing that avoiding pain does not eliminate it, but merely postpones it. Every unspoken word is a lesson in courage, a call to be braver next time, to choose openness over regret, to acknowledge emotions rather than suppress them. Healing begins with acknowledging these echoes, with understanding that the past cannot be changed, but that the future can be shaped differently. It requires facing the moments that were left unresolved, accepting that some conversations will never happen, that some apologies will never come, and that some endings will remain open-ended. It means learning to let go of the weight of words that were never spoken, understanding that their silence does not have to dictate the rest of one's life. The echoes of the past will always be there, but they do not have to control the present. They serve as reminders, not prisons. They are the lessons, carved into the heart, teaching that expression is not a weakness, that speaking truth is a form of freedom, and that the pain of words left unsaid is often far greater than the discomfort of saying them. The past may echo, but it does not have to define. What matters is what is done with those echoes, whether they remain a burden or become the motivation to speak, to feel, to live more fully in the present. Silence has a way of revealing truths that words often fail to capture. It is in the quiet moments, when there is nothing left to say, that a person is forced to confront themselves. It is in the absence of noise that resilience is tested and true strength emerges. The world teaches that power lies in loud declarations, in bold actions, in standing up and making one's voice heard. But there is another kind of power, one that is forged in solitude, in endurance, in the quiet determination to keep moving forward even when everything feels uncertain. Silence, when embraced, becomes a source of strength rather than weakness. There are times when words are not enough. There are moments when explanations do not change outcomes, when apologies cannot mend what is broken, when expressing emotions only deepens wounds rather than heals them. In these moments, silence is not an escape, but a necessary space for growth. It is within the quiet that a person learns to listen to themselves, to their emotions, to the lessons hidden within pain. Instead of drowning in regret or clinging to what cannot be changed, silence offers a moment of stillness, a pause in which strength is rebuilt, not through words, but through resilience. Resilience is not always loud. It does not always take the form of grand gestures or visible acts of defiance. Sometimes it is simply the ability to endure, to hold on when everything feels overwhelming, to choose hope when despair is easier. It is waking up each day and choosing to keep going even when the weight of unspoken emotions lingers. It is finding peace in solitude rather than fearing it. It is allowing the silence to be a teacher rather than an enemy. In a world that values constant communication, where people are expected to explain, defend, and justify their emotions, silence is often misunderstood. Many mistake it for weakness, for avoidance, for surrender. But silence can be intentional. It can be a way of protecting one's energy, of refusing to engage in battles that drain the soul, of stepping back to regain clarity. Strength is not always about speaking up. Sometimes it is about knowing when words will not serve their purpose. It is about recognizing that silence can be a form of power, a declaration of self-respect, a refusal to be drawn into negativity or unnecessary conflict. Pain often demands to be spoken, but it also demands to be understood. There are times when no amount of speaking will bring relief, when no explanation will satisfy the questions of the heart. In these moments, silence becomes a space for healing. It is within the quiet that a person begins to rebuild, to make peace with what cannot be changed, to strengthen their resolve for what lies ahead. The ability to sit with silence, to allow it to shape rather than break, is a testament to true inner strength. There is a power in choosing silence when the world expects noise. When faced with anger, silence can be the strongest response. When met with doubt, silence can be a quiet confidence that does not seek validation. When confronted with loss, silence can be the space where healing begins, where emotions settle, where strength is quietly regained. Words may fail, but resilience speaks louder. It is not always in what is said, but in what is endured, in the way a person continues despite the hardships, in the way they rise after falling, that true power is found. The quiet moments, the ones where a person is left alone with their thoughts, can be the most transformative. These are the moments where resilience is tested, where self-discovery takes place, where one learns that they are stronger than they ever realized. The absence of noise allows for reflection, for understanding, for a deep connection with one's own inner strength. It is in these moments that a person learns to trust themselves, to rely on their own resilience, to move forward not because they have all the answers, but because they have found the strength to keep going despite the uncertainty. Turning silence into strength is about embracing stillness rather than fearing it. It is about understanding that words are not always necessary to prove resilience, that sometimes the most powerful statements are made through action rather than speech. It is about finding confidence in the quiet, about knowing that true power does not always need to be announced. The most resilient people are not always the loudest. They are the ones who have learned to find strength in their silence, who have faced their pain without needing to explain it to the world, who have turned their quiet endurance into their greatest source of power. In the quiet, in the spaces where words no longer serve a purpose, there is an opportunity to rise stronger than before. Resilience does not always come with grand declarations or visible victories. Sometimes it is simply the quiet strength of knowing that even when words fail, the spirit endures. And that endurance, that ability to keep moving forward even in silence, is the truest form of strength there is. When there's nothing left to say, when the world feels deaf to your struggles, and when no one seems to understand your pain, there is still one voice that remains: the voice within. It is the quiet whisper of resilience, the steady rhythm of hope, the unshakable presence of your own inner strength. In moments of despair, when the weight of unspoken emotions becomes too much to bear, listening to this voice becomes a lifeline. It is the guide that leads through darkness, the force that urges you to keep moving, the truth that reminds you that no matter how broken you feel, you still have the power to rise, rebuild, and rewrite your story. Life has a way of silencing people. It throws obstacles, heartbreaks, and failures in the way, making it easy to believe that giving up is the only option. The world is often loud with expectations, filled with voices that tell you who you should be, what you should do, and how you should live. In this chaos, the voice within is often drowned out, lost beneath the noise of doubt and fear. But when everything else fades away, when external validation no longer matters, when the opinions of others become irrelevant, it is the inner voice that remains. It is the only voice that truly knows your pain, your dreams, your potential. There will be times when silence is forced upon you, when conversations end without closure, when relationships fall apart without explanation, when opportunities slip away before you can grasp them. In these moments, it is easy to feel powerless, as if your story has been written for you and there is nothing left to do but accept it. But that is not the truth. Your story is never finished until you decide it is. The voice within reminds you that no matter what has happened, you still hold the pen. You still have the power to turn the page, to change the narrative, to start again. Strength is not always found in grand gestures or loud declarations. Sometimes it is found in quiet determination. It is found in the way you keep pushing forward despite the pain, in the way you choose hope even when it feels impossible, in the way you refuse to let your past define your future. The voice within does not shout. It does not demand attention. It simply waits for you to listen. And when you do, you realize that everything you need to heal, to grow, to rebuild has always been inside you. The world may not always offer second chances, but you can always create your own. You are not bound by your past mistakes, nor are you limited by your past pain. The voice within tells you that every day is a new beginning, that every challenge is an opportunity to rise stronger than before. It reminds you that even when everything feels like it is falling apart, you have the power to rebuild. You are not defined by what has been lost, but by how you choose to move forward. There is incredible power in self-belief. When you learn to trust the voice within, you stop seeking approval from others. You stop waiting for someone to tell you that you are good enough, that you are worthy, that you are capable. You already know it. You no longer need validation because your strength comes from within. It is an unshakable force that no rejection, no failure, no heartbreak can take away. Listening to the voice within does not mean ignoring pain or pretending that everything is fine. It means acknowledging your struggles while also recognizing your ability to overcome them. It means facing your fears, your doubts, your past, and choosing to rise above them. It means knowing that healing is not instant, that rebuilding takes time, but that every small step forward is progress. When there is nothing left to say, when the world offers no answers, when everything feels uncertain, the voice within remains. It does not have all the solutions, but it has the wisdom to guide you toward them. It does not erase the pain, but it reminds you that you are strong enough to carry it and still move forward. It does not change the past, but it gives you the power to shape the future. Your story is still being written. No matter how many times you have fallen, no matter how many endings you have faced, no matter how much has been left unsaid, you are not finished. The voice within is telling you to rise, to rebuild, to rewrite your story, not as a victim of circumstance, but as the author of your own destiny. And the moment you choose to listen, everything begins to change.